want to go to NAACP President and CEO Derek Chauvin for some reaction to both the Bryant case and the Chauvin verdict. Derek, thanks for being here. We heard police there say that Ma'Khia Bryant was about to stab another young woman when the officer opened fire. The mayor said the officer took action to protect another young girl in our community. So what's your reaction to the use of force in this case?
Well, we have a situation in Minnesota where a police officer claimed to be reaching for a taser and pulled the gun, and now we have a situation in Ohio where a taser should have been used and yet a gun was used. We have to create a new standard of trust and safety when it comes to law enforcement. And that can only happen if we have a federal policy floor that will give all of us a sense of security that when officers have been called out to these incidents, they have the proper training, they understand how to de-escalate, and the proper weapons are used that's consistent with the threat or apparent threat that's there. Now, until the investigation is completed and other footage come out, we really don't know what happened. But unfortunately, we are living in the reality where there's been far too much police violence against African Americans across the country.
Derek, if I can ask you to take a step back with the Chauvin verdict, what do you see changing, if anything? The NAACP, more than 100 years old, your predecessors leading that important American organization, Emmett Till, Rodney King, so many others having to fight for justice. Do you think that we've made progress as a nation, that we do make progress? Is that just a comforting tale we tell ourselves?
Well, we are, at an inflection point. Well, Rodney King's situation demonstrated 30 years ago that the claims that were decades old by African Americans concerning law enforcement officers across the country creating harm, injury, and deaths were actually true. What we also witnessed last year with George Floyd, that it was much more egregious than anyone suspected. Now we have an opportunity in the Senate to pass legislation to allow for a different level of transparency, protection, and to establish trust in our law enforcement agencies. I commend Chief of Police in Minneapolis who stood up and testified, breaking down that blue wall of silence. Now let's create a public policy frame that we can all be proud of.
And Derek, we also spoke with Rodney King's daughter earlier on our network, and I want to share with you some of her thoughts for George Floyd's daughter and how she compared the Chauvin verdict with what happened in her father's case.
No one can prepare her for what life is ahead, because who can imagine their self without their father, especially if she's like me, she's a daddy's girl, and I know she is. There's nothing a hug her mother couldn't do. No one could help you. We shouldn't even be going through this, period. No one should. But the fact that he was, he was sentenced, literally, he's guilty, that gives you hope. Like, okay, actually people are listening, they're paying attention, and of course the juror has a big part in this. It was minorities, it was a little bit of everybody on the juror section. Whereas in my dad's case, I don't think there was any Black people.
Now, to be clear, in the Rodney King case, one juror did later identify himself as mixed race, but that trial was moved from L.A. to a predominantly white suburb, and the jury was predominantly white. So, Derek, do you think having a diverse jury made a difference in the Chauvin trial?
Well, I think what made the biggest difference is State Attorney General Keith Ellison taking over the case. As you can recall, the local DA wouldn't bring charges. And it wasn't until the State Attorney General stepped in, put together a very strong team, and aggressively pursued the case. In fact, we all witnessed what took place. Our eyes did not deceive us, and it was multiple camera angles. And we had to go through all of what we've gone through just to get a conviction. That's not justice. A justice system should ensure that an officer's badge is not a shield for accountability, that there's the right type of accountability so no one is operating above the law, that there's a federal registry of police misconduct so a Derek Chauvin, had he been found innocent, could have gone to another jurisdiction and continued to serve as a police officer. In fact, under Minnesota law, he could have gone back to the Minneapolis Police Department, although he was fired because they have arbitration rules that will force officers officers, even if they are involved with misconduct, they won't lose their job. 50% of officers who've lost their jobs in Minneapolis because of misconduct, inclusive of falsifying documents, egregious actions, have gotten their jobs back through an arbitration clause and arbitrators who supersede the authority of the police chief and the mayor. That is not how we should position good cops to be able to provide protection and service when they have to work among bad apples like Derek Chauvin.
And we have seen bad cops like the one involved in the shooting of Tamir Rice who have been kicked out of some police forces, getting a job elsewhere. That National Registry might help get a hand on that. NAACP's
Absolutely.
President Derek Chauvin, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.